of community and global health. And he has built interdisciplinary programs that are not only rigorous, but deeply human, and they are designed to empower students and professionals to create real and lasting impact. And currently, Dr. Donaldson serves as president of the Western Positive Psychology Association, executive director of the Claremont Evaluation Center and the Evaluators Institute, and he's leading the exciting development of our new Claremont Flourishing Center, a global hub for innovation in the science and practice of human flourishing and well-being and happiness. He was recently elected to the board of International Positive Psychology Association, and his numerous scientific publications, including influential books and peer-reviewed articles, bridge research and real-world application. But what makes Dr. Donaldson truly remarkable is his generosity. He is a dedicated mentor who constantly shares his precious time, knowledge, energy, motivation, heart with us students and colleagues. And he believes in people. He invests in the growth of the people, and he models actually what it means to lead with purpose, meaning, and compassion. And please join me in the great pleasure of welcoming Dr. Donaldson, who has not only shaped the field of positive psychology all over the world, but he lives within this field.
Well, thank you, Tatiana. That was moving, and I thought you were going to do a sentence or two, not read my whole life story, but you're so sweet, and I'm so moved by Tatiana's work. She was doing positive psychology in Russia. And when the war broke out, she reached out, and we were able to connect, and she's immigrated to our part of the world, and it's just an amazing doctoral student in positive psychology. No one has more passion for this subject at Claremont than Tatiana. So thank you for that. And let me just start by thanking all of you for being in this state, and Dr. Riki for putting this all together and beginning this collaboration with us. It was so surprising that, to find someone with exactly the same vision and such an amazing set of centers, and feels like one of those things you could never plan. And now tonight we begin our journey together with this first webinar in our webinar series. And again, it's so special that you're all here, and I hope we begin a long time collaboration together. So while I'm getting my slides up, I can now see your universities, which again is very impressive. I'd love to just see in the chat where you're zooming in from tonight for me, in the morning for you. So if you could just put the city and country, let's see how distributed we are this evening. All right, India, California, San Jose, Watsonville, California, New Delhi, Sacramento, Pleasanton, Monterey, New Delhi, Singapore, Bangladesh, India, Chennai, India, Delhi, India, San Jose. Wow, yeah, there's a lot of us here tonight. Look at that. Okay. Well, that gives me a little bit of geography and where we're trying to connect and begin a conversation together about this topic that Aaliyah, I think, laid out so beautifully. This topic of human flourishing and happiness and well-being. I'm going to first of all give you a little bit about where we are in Claremont, but then our story, how we landed into this space of studying the science of happiness. So Claremont sits at the base of a mountain range, and specifically a ski resort called Mount Baldy, and it's about 30 miles east of Los Angeles in Southern California. And we reside in a collection of colleges, 7 different colleges, but the college that focuses on graduate education, particularly in this area, is called Claremont Graduate University. And we largely focus on doctoral and master's level training programs. It's over 15 years ago now, we started to specialize in this topic. And over that time, as we built our programs, a number of
तो रजिस्ट्रेशन होना है अभी इससे मैंने बिठाया
we could mute there. That would be great. Okay, thanks. Whoops. We have attracted a number of really dynamic and productive, prolific faculty members that have been studying topics, within this area. And so what I'm going to talk about this evening is a number of themes that have developed over the last 25 years in positive psychology, and also point out where our speakers in our series, where they focus. So you can think of tonight as somewhat of an overview of the field and a framework that we're now using for a number of things, which I'm going to teach you about. But also then in key places, talk about where future speakers are going to go much deeper into what we call these building blocks of human flourishing. So it all began when a famous psychologist in the US, originally from Eastern Europe, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, decided to retire from the University of Chicago, where he had worked for many years, and come out west to the sunshine and Claremont and the California lifestyle. And he and I met. I was the dean at the time of the School of Social Science, Policy, and Evaluation. And we began talking about this new field that he had been creating with Martin Seligman called positive psychology. And he wanted to do something different than what Marty Seligman was doing at Penn University at the time, which Marty Seligman had a program that focused on applying positive psychology. And Mihaly wanted to develop programs that trained participants to learn the science of psychology and then apply those methods and that knowledge to trying to understand what makes life worth living? What is authentic and true happiness? How do we, teach people and programs and communities how to reach their potential and flourish? So we started in 2006, the first PhD program in positive psychology, and we focused on two main specialties within that. One, which I led, was positive organizational psychology, and the other, with he and his colleague from Chicago, Dr. Gene Nakamura, led, which is positive developmental psychology. And he is at the podium here. This was his final keynote to our Western Positive Psychology Association meeting, where he charged us as he was retiring to, keep what we built going. And this was it was in the pandemic, or just before the pandemic, I think 2019. And so the key characteristic, though, for this bold vision and bold impact he was trying to make in collaboration with Martin Seligman and the other pioneers, was this science of positive subjective experience, individual traits, institutions that would promise to improve the quality of life and prevent pathologies that arise when life is barren and meaningless. And so it was a focus on, how do we help people, become happy, live a good life, not wait until they're, struggling or suffering to intervene, which many psychologists have focused on and done a, great job with. So the first, theme of my talk, and what you're going to get from a lot of our speakers from Claremont, is this strong evidence on strong emphasis on psychological science, and trying to learn about this topic, from data and the scientific method. Yeah, looks like we need another mute there. The publications that we did together tried to, document and lay out the best studies that had been done at the time. But I recently have, with one of his students, looked at his legacy through this book, Flow 2.0, which shows, how to keep his contributions moving forward, as well as positive psychology, to really honor this field that has just really blossomed and has achieved way more than he ever imagined. And of course, the great privilege I had for, working with him for, many years to sort of develop, this space we now have at Claremont and, around the world, focused on, the science of positive psychology. But as we were doing this, and our programs were attracting, just amazing students from around the world. Actually, one of my most early prolific students, her name is Meg Warren, came to me from India and taught me a lot about Indian food and Indian culture, and is now a very prolific positive psychologist working up in Western Washington. But what we were up against as we built the PhD and the field was growing was a lot of critics. and a lot of people not thrilled that many of the students coming to Claremont and other places really wanted to study this topic, as opposed to other ones that they might have thought, were a better choice. So with one of my graduate students, now a doctor and graduated, Jackie Gaffney, we began to map out all these criticisms to try to find out, were they legitimate, positive psychology as a science and things we could learn from and improve the field, or were they things that really weren't insightful for the core area of what we were focused on. And so we did these 2 reviews and essentially found that a lot of the targets were not peer-reviewed scientific work in positive psychology. And this was one concern Mihaly had, is people would get so enthusiastic about positive psychology that they would get ahead of the science. But if you really want to dig into why this new version that we're now all in, addresses a number of these things, and the field continues, to build. The first article, Gaffney and Donaldson, lays out sort of the response to these criticisms and provides checklists. What I'm going to focus us on tonight or this morning is this notion of getting the best measurement and methodology possible to study these topics, and from that space, what we've learned. So reliable and valid measure is something we really emphasize in our work. As we review all the measures that are now being used in this space, one that has really had widespread use and emerges is a scale which was developed by Ed Diener, and it's a much longer scale, but through psychometric work, he got it down to 5 key items. And this short scale, which you see here, you answer it on a 7-point scale, is one of the most widely cited measures of well-being, or more specifically, life satisfaction. But to study this topic, across the entire world, the analyses and work that was done suggested that a 2-item scale could be employed and has been employed, and that I'm going to focus on for just a minute. It's called Cantrell's ladder. And the idea behind Cantrell's ladder is that wherever you go in the world, these researchers believe that people understand what a ladder is. And there's not a lot of things that are so cross-cultural that you could, use it essentially everywhere, at least according to their experience. So please imagine a ladder with steps numbered from 0 at the bottom to 10 at the top. And the top represents the best possible life for you. 0 represents the worst possible life for you. So imagine over 20 years sampling from almost every country in the world, going out and using good survey methodology to ask people where they sit on this ladder. There's a rubric that they've developed. The 2 questions are, how you fare right now on the ladder, and how you think you'll fare in the next 5 years. But in their scoring rubric, you can see that people in the 10 are really, prospering, or what I would call flourishing. And, people all the way down at 1 in the suffering area, are really, at the real bottom end of this measure. Now, where this gets interesting is, and my students love this, is why I show this, and it's something those of you, which I think many of you are teaching about happiness and life satisfaction and so forth. This link is this massive data visualization that has all the data from, the countries from around the world over time. And when I'm teaching, measures of central tendency or skews or, some basic statistics, I found this visualization people really enjoy because they enjoy the topic. So I'm going to show you just a couple of things on how it comes out, but encourage you to work with this, or at least try it out yourself. What you'll see is a map of the world, and any country that averages between 9 and 10, and there aren't any in the latest numbers, would be really dark green. If you really light, that suggests the average, is toward the bottom end of the ladder. Now, you can ask for all kinds of, charts and analyses in this website, but to show you the upper and lower end right now in 2024, at the top, you see the countries, the Nordic countries and Iceland, Finland, Denmark, and Iceland have been pretty consistently at the top of all of these polls over, 12 or so years here. At the bottom now, Afghanistan, which used to be a 4, little over a decade ago, is now at the very bottom of, the distribution. And of course, we know, what's been happening in that country. But everybody else is somewhere in between these two measures, and what they essentially show us, the median measure, is that about half of the population are below that and half are above that. So it's really dire in a place like Afghanistan, and people feel really satisfied, in these countries that are toward the top of this distribution. So the big question that I'm going to address today is something we've been studying now for quite a while, which is, what is it that predicts whether somebody does well in life, or has high measures of well-being and happiness and so forth. So we are interested in, okay, we know well-being and life satisfaction has all these distributions and has been studied for, a long time, and we've done all these, psychometric analyses and so forth. So with the best measures we've got, what predicts who flourishes in life and who struggles or, suffers? And so Corey Keyes gave us a definition of flourishing, which refers to living a life in which individuals thrive, experience happiness, and achieve their fullest potential. More recently, there's been a big group of universities that have been funded to do the first thank you. To do the first sort of multi-country longitudinal study. It's an epidemiological approach to see if we can understand over time what are the key factors involved in flourishing. And this global flourishing study, and I have the first major paper that came out as the citation here, shows the preliminary year 1 results. Again, it's going to go multiple 5 years. Our lab has been working analyses and collaborating on a couple of the papers that are from year 1. But essentially, they're defining it as living in a state in which all aspects of a person's life are good. And they've come up with some more multi-dimensional measures of this. But I highly recommend at least looking at this first study, because it should really help us, across all these different countries, get a an interesting sort of understanding of how flourishing differs across these various parts of the world. So to get to what is Perma+4, which is our latest framework for predicting well-being and happiness and flourishing, I want to just talk about a couple of steps that led to where we are now. And Martin Seligman in 2006, began theorizing about, what are the, most important things in our life that, would help us thrive and flourish and be at our best, and came up with really 3 key dimensions. The first being positive emotion, or the pleasant life. The second being engagement, being fully engaged in the moment, experiencing what we call flow, or the engaged life. And the third was meaning, or the meaningful life. And those were believed at the time to be the key pathways to having a flourishing life and, being at your best. In 2011, he added 2 more dimensions and came up with the PERMA model, which, and again, these dimensions are things that had been studied empirically in positive psychology and looked really promising. So he still had positive emotions and engagement, but he added in our relationships, or positive relationships, and he added in meaning and purpose. Or we had the meaningful life, but he expanded it a bit with the purpose dimension. And he also added accomplishment. So if people feel like they're accomplishing things, whatever their definition is of that, that also seems to be important to being able to flourish in our lives. So at Claremont, we began using this across a lot of different applications, and began to realize that this was a great start, but people would tell us there were some critical things that they thought needed to be added, or were missing from the PERMA model. So we developed a whole program of research to see if we could add to this, and then scientifically demonstrate that it was they were important additions. And that's where we came up with the Perma+4 building blocks for happiness, well-being, and human flourishing. And so I'm going to show you in a moment, when you've put all these together into what we call a factor, a predictor that includes them all, you get really strong prediction, more than anything I've seen in my scientific career working in these kinds of spaces. But essentially, when you assess people on all 9, and that forms this higher order factor of Perma+4, it's more predictive than IQ and some of our strongest measures on our flourishing, our functioning, our happiness, and so forth. So positive emotions, which Barbara Fredrickson and other pioneers really developed in positive psychology, is what you're going to learn about in a couple of weeks from Dr. Seda Heshmati, who has a whole program of research on positive emotions and especially the supreme emotion of love. And so we're going to take a deep dive into that. We actually, Dr. Jean Nakamura, who worked with Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi really closely for many years, is going to give us the latest understanding of flow and how that influences our life. So engagement and flow, the second building block. And Matt Dubin, who worked with me on Flow 2.0, is also going to talk about how flow plays out in our new technologically advanced world. We then have relationships, which Seda Heshmati is going to connect with that building block as well. We have Dr. Kendall Cotton-Bronk, who's going to talk about purpose as a component of the meaning building block of human flourishing. We've got accomplishment and physical health, which Dr. Jamie Shapiro is going to teach us about through her work on vitality and how leaders and their vitality affect us as well as our own vitality and physical health. Dr. Jennifer Villalobos is going to teach us about our mindset, and particularly a really strong evidence-based concept called psychological capital. The eighth building block that we've added is our environment. People were really convincing, and we went to the literature and then tested this, that where you live and work and your environment really influences your flourishing. And finally, one that psychologists often don't like to tackle, but we couldn't ignore it, is economic security, and how at different economic levels these building blocks and happiness and flourishing play out differently. So these are the 9 building blocks of the Perma+4 model. And with Dr. Vicky Cabrera, who's here with us tonight, in 2002 and 2003, we went out and looked at all of the empirical research that had been done since positive psychology started to see what were the empirical findings of this framework. And what we found, and it's published in these references, is that it is extremely powerful in terms of predicting our happiness, our well-being, and human flourishing measures, as well as our performance in work organizations. And it's now been tested in over 10 different cultures and languages, and it applies there. Now, as someone that had been doing this kind of research for many years on other topics, when I first got started, I'd never seen anything that could predict variance or predict how well people were doing, as I've been able to enjoy in this Perma and Perma+4 work. I at one point was getting so skeptical, how could these results look so strong? We pulled out a technique which is called multi-trait, multi-method analysis. And with these kinds of models, instead of relying on people's self-report about happiness and Perma+4 and so forth, we studied pairs of people and had them report about the others' happiness and Perma+4 and so forth. And I could spend an hour on this, but the bottom line is the Perma+4 measures and framework, while they dropped a little bit in strength, were still highly predictive. So if I, like I know Tatiana, quite well, so I could rate her Perma+4 and I could rate, her well-being scores, and I would be, pretty close to what she would do. There would be a lot of convergence, based on this research. So this is not a method effect. It's not a self-report bias. This is the conclusion of this work. And the other thing that people, questioned us on as we're, publishing these studies is that, most things are cross-sectional or happening at one point in time. And so recently we've been able to do longitudinal studies. First, Dr. Cabrera did a short one, a few weeks study, and found that things were in the right direction, and we could predict things over time. But this new study that's currently under review shows that 16 months later, a longitudinal study, that your Perma+4 scores are highly predictive of how you're doing at work and in life. So to summarize and get us into a discussion here is the science now shows that people that feel well and are satisfied with their lives do much better in their health, their social lives, their school, work, and are more resilient in their lives. We have a lot of evidence on these work factors of how well they do in their work and careers. But we also have a study that we think is really important that was done by Sonia Lubernierski and colleagues who are at Riverside, which is near us. But they strongly show that across cross-sectional, longitudinal, and experimental studies, that relative to their less happy peers, happy people experience superior success on a host of outcomes, which are listed here, making the case that it's not successful people that are happy, it's happy people that are successful. So this whole topic of well-being and flourishing has been the one we focused on most in positive psychology. We're now convinced it's measurable. We know it fluctuates over time. It has these big consequences, and that we can develop it and care for it using a framework like Perma+4. And with the most rigorous experimental studies, we've shown that under specific conditions, well-being interventions work extremely well. So in summary, our positive psychological science has made great progress in understanding these issues over the last 25 years. And Perma+4 is becoming a very useful evidence-based framework to guide programs and policies. So it's time now for me to let you begin the discussion and to reflect a little bit on this Perma+4 framework, these building blocks. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to put you in a breakout room. And oh, wow, we're up to 97. So Vicki, I hope Zoom works for us, but let's go with maybe 5 in a room.
Yep.
And here's what I'd like you to do in this brief discussion is when you think of your students, those of you that are teaching, or you think if you're not teaching, you could think of your colleagues that you work with on a daily basis. Which of these 9 do you think are the 3 most important? And so what I'd like you to do now before you go into the breakout room is try to rank order these in your context in terms of what you think is absolutely the most important, all the way down to the least important. And as you rank them now, you're going to look at what came out as your top 3 and have a discussion in your breakout room to see if as a group you can decide on a top 3. Okay, so we're looking for the top 3 building blocks for you and the top 3 for your group. So here we go, and Vicky's going to send you a message reminding you of the building blocks. So you ready to push the button?
Yes, I have the building blocks in the chat. And how many minutes, Stewart?
Ricky, how many, when should I wrap this up? You're on mute, just so you know.
You could do around 9:40 our time. That means
Okay.
another 6 plus 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, 15, great. So let's go with 5 minutes for this discussion, and then we'll come back and wrap it up. So again, your top 3, and there's no right or wrong answer. This is just a space to discuss these and see if you can come to a consensus on, as a group, on what would be the top 3. So, okay, have fun.
I just opened the rooms. Should I pause the recording, or should we leave it on?
Yeah, why don't you pause it? I think that's good.
That was the fastest 5 minutes ever.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. More board.
I like that.
I think the time was very less. It was hardly any time to discuss.
Okay, so yeah, I gave you a little tease of this exercise, but I want you to use this now with your students, because what it does is it opens up this space for us to really talk about what makes us happy in life and which of these, we care about most, what our, friends and colleagues and students care about most. So it's a great exercise for really getting deep into this topic of science of happiness that we all care about. But I have very limited time, and I want to get a sense of what you all thought And so we're going to use technology here, something maybe you've used before, maybe not. It's called Mentimeter. And what we'd like you to do is, first of all, based on your group, and I know you didn't have a lot of time, but to enter in what your group thought were the top 3 building blocks, and then we're going to do your individual after that. So Vicky, do you want to guide people through?
Sure. So there are different ways you can go to the Mentimeter poll. I put a link in the chat, so you can access the link that way, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code on the screen. Or if you have a smartphone or a device, you can also scan the QR code and it will take you to the poll. So I'll give everyone a moment and then we'll go into the poll.
Okay, 3 people have responded. 4, you see the responses coming in on your screen. And okay, so what does your group think are the 3 most important building blocks? Look at that, the race is on. Oh, you guys are relational, like most people. Okay, we got 30 of 60. Keep going. Okay, well, we see the results coming in, and it looks like, at least as a group, as we began discussing this, our relationships really emerged as an important building block of human flourishing, and a lot of the data confirms that. Our physical health emerged for us as coming in second, and there was a tie, at least right this minute, between meaning and mindset. Okay, so these were the things people were seeing as really important in their context. Now, before you got into the group and started discussing, what were your top 3? And let's see if they look the same. So your 3 most important building blocks. Okay, well, we've got 3 competing for second place here. Relationships is carrying the day or the night if you're in California. Okay, so it individually and in our group, we have a pretty similar pattern. Meaning, I think, came out higher individually, but mindset is really close, and it's meaning and physical health. So if you could take that down. So I'm going to go to questions in just 1 second, but I wanted to finish with a couple of key slides, which is Vicky, Dr. Cabrera, and I are working on our forthcoming book. We're working this summer. It should be out in the fall, where we go into a lot of detail and give you resources that have been created in the field to think about and help people with their building blocks. But what we're going to give you tonight or today is a playbook which we use in our workshops which also gives you tools to think about and work with these building blocks. So and she's putting that in the chat for you. So it's a copy that we're happy to share with you tonight. Anybody want to come off mute and make a comment or ask a question? Also, feel free to ask a question in the chat, and we'll wrap it up in 3 or 4 minutes. So get in line first if you want to ask one.
Yeah, Professor Stewart, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for this amazing session. Yeah, maybe for so many years we were talking about PERMA, trying to understand this Perma+4 is amazing framework, a nice extension of the original PERMA, because this economic conditions or security and then mindset, environment is a great factor in that way. And thank you so much for your amazing efforts in all this. My question is that is there any studies around the Perma+4 which can check or assess the cultural factors, maybe like in Europe, in Asia, or African countries? Are there some studies around that?
Yes. What we have been amazed by, both with PERMA and Perma+4, is how many researchers and people in other languages and in other countries and cultures have taken the measures and adapted them into their language. And I've helped a lot of them, with the Perma+4 measure. But I keep thinking, because when I discuss this with people, there's going to be cultures where maybe all 9 don't work, or the structure doesn't hold up. But I haven't found one yet, and that's across Germany, Spain, Finland, Iceland, Turkey now is doing something, Japan. In each of these cultures, this sort of rough framework, it's not super precise, but it seems to make sense and hold up. Of course, people value the 9 differently. So talking with a group of executives from China, I always have my little predictions, which one's going to emerge to the top. And this very successful executive group, I was sure achievement was gonna, come up, and it didn't. And their most important building block, as we went through the exercise, was physical health. And after we finished, they were all out in the courtyard smoking, and it's like, oh, okay, I see the links now. Some of these addictive things that we have are really hard to manage, but as you know, if we don't. So yes, and if you email me, I can send you some of those studies and references.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question? I'm
Yes.
Ranjita here. I'm actually intrigued by the sequence
I'm sorry, by the
of Perma model.
oh,
Yes,
the
because one does it mean that one follows the another, like positive emotions, engagements, and then comes relationship. And I'm so intrigued by the fact that it is the placement of these words and the placement of these factors together.
yeah. So the short answer is we don't know enough about that yet to say the sequencing. When we studied Maslow's hierarchy, there, the components, some of them, map onto this pretty well, but the actual sequencing never really panned out, scientifically. But the thing that Dr. Cabrera did in her dissertation is looked at the interconnections between them all, and how certain things that we do affect more than one building block. And if one building block is down, that may drag another down. So that's what I'm, asking people to start studying. Let's, we've got these 9 on the table, and there may be more. Some of these may drop out over time, but how do they connect with one another? And, how can we do things to, manage and care for our Perma+4 on a daily basis? Because we think that's going to really serve us well. So with that, thank you. I would love to keep going, obviously, but we are, because a lot of these building blocks now are going to be talked about in the future sessions. So think about them and what you learned tonight. And, we're going to get a great methodology talk next. But after that, we're going to go into positive emotions and the supreme emotion of love, and what does that mean in the framework? And then we'll go into purpose and meaning, and I think we're going to have a great series and discussion. I wish we would have had more discussion time, because I love the way I think you engaged this tonight. So thank you again, Dr. Recchi. It was a great pleasure. And now I don't know how I'm going to get to sleep after talking about all this good stuff. So let me turn it over to you.
Ria, go ahead.
Before we go, I feel it was a very insightful session, and we do got a lot of things to think about. But I would now like to ask Ruchita, who is affiliated with AIMS Delhi, to propose a formal vote of thanks, please.
Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well here. On behalf of all participants, I would like to begin by thanking Dr. Rekhi for making this happen in the first place. All the speakers, I extend our sincere gratitude to Dr. Stewart Donaldson for his insightful words, his inspiring work in positive psychology, and his ability to weave empirical rigor with practical insight. Additionally, I would like to thank the Claremont Flourishing Center for this partnership and all the participants present for your time and energy. It was truly a rewarding session. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we look forward to having you in the upcoming sessions. Thank you, Stewart, for devoting us. It didn't feel like an hour is already done, and we wanted to keep hearing, and we were so eager to hear your thoughts on multiple things. There are so many questions in the chat. I'm sure they can reach you over an email, considering the paucity of time. So thank you, everyone, for joining at this hour from California, and the Indians are rushing to work. So thank you, everybody. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
thank you for the